Hey there, I'm Rick. Today we're going to talk about soundness testing for gas installations. We often need to check that an installation is gas tight, and the procedures that we follow are described in AS/NZS 5601 Part 1. You'll find them in Appendix E. Remember, if you're currently licensed, you can access your standards in your online portfolio through your Plumbers, Gas Fitters and Drain Layers Board login. Now you probably noticed that Appendix E is normative. Normative means that it's an integral part of the standard. And if you're working to the standard, you most likely are, this is how you're going to need to test. Keep in mind that these test procedures are for installations with a volume of 30 litres or less. The test procedures that we're going to talk about is a pipework test, an installation test, and a final connection test. First off, there's the pipework test. This is E4. This test is for pipework which has just been installed. So it could be a new installation, or it could even be in addition to an existing installation. The pipework test needs to take place before any appliances are connected to the installation. And if it's an existing installation, the new pipework will need to be tested before that's connected. Seal all open ends and make sure it's disconnected from the gas meter or LPG cylinders. You'll need to know what the operating pressure for this pipework is going to be as well. 7 kPa or 1.5 times the working pressure, whichever one is higher. Now the first example, you might have an installation which has an operating pressure of 5 kPa. So 5 times 1.5, that equals 7.5. That's higher than 7, so the test pressure on this one is going to be 7.5 kPa. For our next example, this installation might have an operational pressure of 3 kPa. So 3 times 1.5, that equals 4.5. Now that's lower than 7. So the test pressure on this one would be 7 kPa. Next, you'll need to choose your testing equipment. You may have a digital manometer for this purpose. You could choose to use a water gauge manometer like this one. It looks like it's handmade. Now, what would make you choose one over the other? Accuracy. The digital manometer is really good at showing minute changes in pressure, but that can make readings fluctuate quite a bit when there's temperature changes. Ease of use. The digital manometer is direct reading, so it shows the pressure on the screen. The water gauge, however, that's indirect reading. That means you have to add the two sides of the gauge together to get your reading. Reliability. The water gauge, it doesn't run on batteries. You might get splash topping up the water, but that's about it. Calibration. You may want to set that water level at 0 on a water gauge, but you don't have to. You just got to add the sides together, and whereas a digital manometer, it might go out of calibration. At the end of the day, it's going to come down to personal preference. Right, so let's get that test on. Let's put some pressure into this pipework. Now, if you're using your mouth to blow into it, make sure you have some alcohol wipes on hand to sanitize it first. Now, this installation has a working pressure of 3 kPa, so 7 kPa is what we're going to test this at. Let's allow a couple of minutes for this to settle. So settling time is finished, we can start the test. Right, let's check this reading. Looks bang on to me. Looks like a positive result. Now, you need to write down the results, so we'll keep that for our records. Now, after we've let the pressure out, we remove the test gear, but we need to remember to seal those open ends so no dirt, insects or water is going to get into that pipework, because that can cause you a huge headache down the line. Now it's time for an installation test. This is Appendix E5. This test takes place after all the appliances have been connected to the installation. Once again, make sure the installation is disconnected from the gas meter or the LPG cylinders. You'll need to know what pressure you need to test this installation to. The operating pressure, or 2 kPa, whichever is higher. For this first example, the installation has an operating pressure of 5 kPa. It's pretty easy to see that that's higher than 2 kPa, so the test pressure is going to be at 5 kPa. For our next example, this one has an operating pressure of 3 kPa. That's also higher than 2 kPa, so that test pressure is going to be at 3 kPa. Right, so let's get this test on. Hang on, that's not right. The standard says ensure the installation is disconnected at the meter or from the cylinder. But why? Firstly, the isolation valve may not be shut off completely. Some regulators may have an overpressure relief, and that could allow some gas to escape. This one doesn't. But the main reason, as far as I'm concerned, would be that the isolating valve, even though it's closed, there's a small section of pipe here which contains much higher pressure, and they can easily mask many of those smaller pressure drops. So that meter needs to be isolated from the test. Best thing is to get your hands on a meter test set. You remove the meter, it's easy to connect your test gear, and you can start that test. Now, domestic meter test plugs are available from some suppliers. Some gas suppliers aren't happy for their meters to be removed for testing. In those situations, your best option may be to fit an isolating valve and test point to the installation, so it makes your testing easier. Now, the meter's a delicate instrument. Just take care when removing it and stand it upright in a place where it's not going to get knocked over. Right, let's get that test on. Let's put some pressure into this installation. And once again, if you're using your mouth, make sure you use some wipes to sanitize that mouthpiece. Now, this installation has a working pressure of 3 kPa. I know that's higher than 2 kPa, so our test pressure is going to be at 3 kPa. Remember, there are appliance regulators on this installation, so we wouldn't put too much pressure in here. So let's allow a couple of minutes for settling, and now our test can begin. Right, let's check that reading. That looks bang on. Don't forget to write down those results in your records. Now we're all finished. We can connect this back up, slowly turn the gas back on, and we can do our final connection test just to make sure there's no leaks where we had it disconnected. That all looks good. It's time for purging and commissioning. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.